Hey everybody, welcome to the Chorus Daily Briefing. This is Jim Benton from Chorus. Today I'm with Todd Abbott, the COO at InsightSquared. Todd, how are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for the opportunity to join you this morning.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you joining. I'm, by the way, a huge fan of your software. I've used it in many companies that I've been a part of, and congrats on, you mentioned you joined in December, is that right?
I did, yeah. After having met a customer 3 times, I was doing some consulting and just decided to join after they did an acquisition of a company in November of last year.
It's an interesting time to be new. I'm new at this myself.
Wow.
Before we jump in, how are you doing? Just personally, how are you holding up given COVID-19?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. My home here bases in Miami, so if you're going to be hunkered down at home, not a bad place to do it. So I'm not having to go back and forth to Boston, which is where we're based. But my family is good. Fortunately, knock on wood, have not had anybody affected too close to the family. So everything is good.
That's awesome. That's glad to hear it. We're likewise myself, and we're 3 or 4 weeks in on this crazy adventure. So
Oof.
Today, what we're going to talk about, Todd, is jumping in on looking at specifically productivity data, which I'll jump into in just a second, and looking at meeting volumes, both by segment, by geo, and some of the trends we're seeing. And this was the first week we saw a pretty sizable drop. And so let me jump into the data here. So yesterday I shared that overall we saw 11% drop week over week. So from March 23rd to March 30th, we finally saw a drop. It's been holding steady up until this point, which has been quite impressive given just the way work has shifted. But what we saw when we dug into the data is that by segment, we are starting to see for the first time, in doing this for 3 to 4 weeks, a pretty significant drop. Now we had end of quarter. So last week had quarter changes, though last year at this time, we saw an increase the first week of the quarter in meeting volume. So this is a change in behavior looking at across the different segments. So overall, the top numbers are changed since baseline, sort of pre-COVID-19, and the bottom is the week over week change. So seeing, security companies drop 24% week over week. Hospitality still seeing a real challenge in the local services and travel space, down 27%. And meetings, kind of collaboration, project management, that's been the bucket. The vendors that are helping to bring people together remotely are still up 33% from baseline, but down 22% week over week. I'm curious, what are you seeing out there from your perspective, and what are your observations looking at this data?
So a lot of consistency. I've got a fairly large business in the staffing space, and that business is just being hit extremely hard. There'll be a lot of consolidation in that space, and then obviously hospitality is. Interestingly, I just got off the phone with a customer whose business is booming, but they're very much focused on web-based ordering, which is the only segment in hospitality, specifically restaurant. But for the most part, those stats are very, very much consistent. The one area that I'm also seeing is, and I don't know, I guess that would be in your collaboration area, but anybody that's supporting any home-based collaboration and call centers. The call center vendors, because you've got a lot of big infrastructure spends. In fact, a lot of the collaboration, the telephony companies and the call center companies are deploying big technology deployments into these enterprises to support what were major call centers now working from home. So I'm assuming that's in that collaboration and project management space, but it's also
here as well.
We're also seeing it in the infrastructure. If you're doing anything telephony based in the infrastructure, actually your business has picked up nicely.
That's interesting. I mean, this is the second set of data on the segment side. Data and BI was one of the groups that we saw a 3% increase, and then training and education. they're up 8%, 4% week over week. Have you seen any insights on that space?
Same thing. I mean, I think I've got a fair number of sales consultants, and they're now everybody's had to pivot to online. And so I would say that our business is very consistent with the stats that you're showing here. I think the data and BI companies are getting challenged right now from a tech stack as well as MarTech. Tech stack consolidation
Yep.
seems to be a big theme right now. And so those companies in the product IT, MarTech, data BI, everybody's looking to cut costs. And so tech stack consolidation is, I think, a big driver of some of these big negatives here.
Makes sense. I think one of the other areas that we looked at, we shared this a week and a half ago, was looking at just the cold call volume. And I've been waiting to see if this would impact the meeting. So up until this week, meeting volume is held flat. I mean, it's been quite impressive, yet we've seen this drop in cold calls. I mean, it's down almost 50%, yet the connect rates are maintaining. So people are still willing to talk to folks if you reach out to them. The question that we're looking at now is this starting to show up in the meetings that are booked? We're seeing more executives. We saw a 53% increase in execs in meetings. Are we seeing more prep time, therefore less volume in meetings? These are the trends that we're going to be looking at. I'm curious, Todd, as you talk to your own sales team, what's your message to them? How are you thinking about how you connect with your customers? What's any changes that you've made to your sales motion?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing we've done, and this is a little bit of it's a tough shift for a very driven BDR kind of function where it's about volume and making connections. It's almost to dial it back. You've got to dial it back from the hard sales approach to one that is much more empathetic to customers. Probably don't have new money to spend on tech stack components, which we would fit into. And so we've really dialed it back to, hey, during this period of uncertainty, I already know that you don't have any money, so just take the edge off. But as you probably have some time to spend some time getting educated on some technology, it might be worth sharing and getting you educated so that when things do get better, you know who we are and what we can do to help. That approach seems to be working. It's still early, but the hardest part is just kind of dialing back these hunters, these hungry, and just dial it back to be more empathetic and more educational. That's the approach that we're finding, still early, but we think is working.
Have you received feedback from any of your BDRs that have taken on the more empathetic approach? Are they customers still wanting to talk to them? Are they any surprises that have come out of that?
I would say anecdotally at best. I think it's too early for me to be able to declare victory. But what we have found anecdotally is that when you do take the edge off, hey, I'm not here to sell you, relax. I understand you don't have a whole lot of incremental OpEx to spend right now as you're just trying to sort through your business. It's almost like storytelling, right? If you say, hey, can I tell you a story? You relax because you don't have to perform. If we're starting with hey, I'm actually not here to sell you. I understand we don't actually use those words, but take the edge off of having to perform and having to say yes, no, but let's just educate. Let's share with you what this technology can do. So when you're ready, that approach anecdotally has opened up some opportunities and some good discussions. Nothing yet that's translated to business.
Yeah.
But it's getting customers on the phone, which at this point in time is what you need to do.
I love it. I mean, it's that human to human connection and at its finest moment. And as you mentioned that, the quote from Bill Murray about people do their very best work when they're very, very relaxed. And not that we're relaxed from the crisis to what's going on, but when you can engage people in a more empathetic, authentic way, it is more relaxing. It's more real. You don't have to overthink about scripts and things. It's just about helping people.
That's right.
I think it's fantastic. Well, one other key stat that we have here is looking at the meeting volume by location. We've shared this several weeks in the past. We've seen kind of nuances of different impact. InsightSquared is headquartered up in Boston. I know you're in Miami, but is that right?
That's right.
Boston's taken, from our data perspective, it's been it's down 9.9, a little bit more than a few others. Like New York actually showed an increase this week, which is super impressive given the news that we're watching and the tough times they're going through. Have you seen Boston be impacted heavier than other markets, or what are you seeing across markets from your perspective?
This is a great chart, and one honestly that has provoked me to go take a look at what we're seeing geographically, because I honestly haven't looked at it this way. I'm encouraged as heck to see New York. Maybe that is yet another data point that they flattened the curve a bit, and I'm purely speculating there.
Yeah.
So I don't have any additional insights I can provide you relative to geography. This is a really interesting view, though, that I want to go take a look at our business, because I haven't looked at it this way. But Boston was a little bit on the front edge, a little bit actually before New York. It wasn't getting as much press relative to how COVID was impacting it. It seems to be managed quite well from what I hear from our team up there, managing them remotely. But California was the one that we do a fair amount of business on the West Coast, and that one was hitting us pretty hard.
Yeah, I think it's funny, in the Bay Area, we've seen that the 7.3, and I'm a Bay Area native, so out here, it is luckily, things have been, we've been getting through this in a way that has not been a New York situation yet, knock on wood. But I think a lot of people are used to working from home, or having, with the long commutes, a bit more time. And so it'd be interesting as we look into these markets, Utah and Denver, where you have a lot of inside sellers who come into offices, whether that's been an impact as people need to, learn how to be remote. And these are things that we'll be continuing to dig into. But yeah, it's really positive to see New York showing strength. Even last week, they were showing a fairly flat. They didn't show a big dip as we saw the news show, the severity of the crisis out there.
I'll be curious to see what you report next week on New York.
Me too. We'll see that in a week. Todd, any other final thoughts before we move on?
No, I mean, I think that what we've been seeing, and the hard part here is, as you do and as we do, managing a team that is activity based remotely is presenting a whole new set of challenges. So the more data that you have as a CRO, CEO, CFO on what the activity level is, to be able to spot the trends, I think is so critical. So we're doing a number of things for our customers, as I know you are, to help them be able to track how are the sales cycles changing now? What's the activity profile today versus a quarter ago? It's going to be different. And so the more data you have to be able to understand how your business is evolving, to be able to make the mid-course corrections, is going to be so critical. So if there's ever a time where the science of sales is going to become more critical to you managing these uncharted waters, wow, this is it.
I think, that is one of the reasons we're doing this, is just how do you remove the emotion out of the decisions that all of us are facing right now, running companies. Every company is having to choose wisely how we forecast the future. And I think that, through the data, that empowering the leaders to have real data just should remove the opinion, should allow people to say, look, I can see it. And actually things are still working. Up until this week, we've seen strength on meetings. Look, it's the beginning of the quarter. We might've seen people take a little pressure off, given there was such incredible pressure to close Q1 strong. And we'll see where next week bounces back. Awesome. Well, Todd, thank you for joining. Tomorrow I've got Manoj joining us from Sales Intel. So we're going to be talking about how teams are effectively prospecting and just sort of the changes as we've kind of touched on today around empathy, et cetera. But Todd, I want to say thanks for joining us today. Hope you have a great rest of your day, rest of the Tuesday, and we'll see you around.
Thank you. Best of luck out there.
Thanks.